Well, welcome everybody to Inside Asian Gaming's Trade Talk. Very pleased today to welcome Victoria White from MDME Lawyers to talk about, the move towards digital currencies, and particularly we've seen recently China pushing forward with its own state authorized digital currency. So Victoria, you've obviously joined MDME quite recently to lead the digital transformation team, and it's perfect timing really. I mean, can we start by discussing the proliferation of digital payments in mainland China, and particularly why China has been looking at a state authorized digital currency over the past few years?
Yes, well, hi Ben, and thank you very much for inviting me to talk with you today. The Chinese government has been looking at launching their own digital currency since 2014. So it first set up a research team to look and to explore the feasibility and format of a digital currency, really with two main aims. Firstly, to lower the costs of traditional paper money circulation, and secondly, increasing oversight over money supply. And another very important aspect of the digital yuan's development is its role in the Chinese government's internationalization strategy for the RMB. The digital yuan is intended to be accepted overseas and will facilitate cross-border transactions. And in future, we may also see that the digital yuan support the Chinese government's drive for the RMB to become a leading reserve currency and a global trade settlement currency. So a large part of it is the digital yuan's acceptance overseas and use in cross-border transactions. I think it's important as well. So just to touch on that, the digital yuan is an electronic version of the RMB. So it is a fiat currency backed one for one with the RMB, and the sort of the overall game plan will be to replace all the physical currency in circulation with digital yuan.
I mean, you talk about China's plans for internationalisation. Obviously China's renowned for having pretty tight controls over capital outflow. I mean, would they have to look at that policy? They seem to be conflicting policies from what I can understand.
Yes, I think we will see this as sort of a development of the sort of the extension of the digital yuan. So at the moment, they're very much focusing on sort of domestic trials of it. Since May 2020, they've conducted a number of these pilot trials in major cities throughout China. And the scope of these trials has very much been expanding. So now we've seen sort of online and offline payment transactions that involve state-owned enterprises, merchant outlets, and then also international brands. And then now we've also seen more recent pilot trials also in Shenzhen that also include sort of wearable technologies. So I think with sort of the evolution of the testing, the sort of the fiscal reforms and the legislative reforms will also come in.
I guess in terms of how this affects Macau, I mean, the talk is about, the use of digital currencies in the integrated resorts, either on the gaming floor or non-gaming as well. To what extent do you feel that the operators are sort of prepared for a move towards digital currency?
Yeah, well, I think we've seen in the past that IR operators have really embraced sort of the introduction of digital payment technologies like Alipay and WeChat Pay, obviously particularly in retail before, to cater to customer demand. So I think with the impending introduction of the Chinese digital yuan, this will trigger a need for the adoption of payment facilities that will be able to accept and support those transactions. We're going to be seeing Chinese visitors arriving with digital yuan in their e-wallets and really wanting to spend them. So I think that IR operators that really take the lead in updating and introducing new systems will likely benefit the most in order to satisfy the customer demand.
And where do you sort of see the main areas that, a digital currency might be able to transform the landscape for IR operators in Macau and across Asia as a whole?
Yeah, so I think Really, we look at, operations firstly, particularly in historically cash intensive areas of the business. It really has the potential to transform the customer experience, in terms of currency exchange, and also in terms of sort of payment efficiency. We could see more reliable and more secure transactions. I think, we're going to see sort of waiting in line, to change money and things, being absolutely a thing of the past. So I think with that, we see redesign of cashier stations, of sort of retail design layouts, and repurposing spaces. I think also the shift to digital currency will allow operators to have greater oversight into transactions that are occurring on property, and better sort of real-time data, regarding sort of like the state of cash flows. So this can help their own sort of internal analysis.
I guess the big impediment for Macau will be regulatory. I mean, what are the sort of main challenges Macau would face from a regulatory standpoint in introducing, particularly a digital yuan?
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right that sort of legislative reform will be required in order to allow for the introduction of the digital yuan. Sort of historically, we have seen that Asian regulators are somewhat more conservative in their approach to the sort of adoption of new technologies. But I think we've reached a point where we can see that some of the inherent benefits of the digital currencies will help, obviously, from a business perspective, but also to advance sort of public policy aspects. We can see that a digital currency could help more efficient transaction, more efficient customer experience, but also could help sort of responsible gaming by ensuring that sort of limits are set for the amount of payment and transactions that could occur by an individual. So I think overall we've also seen in other jurisdictions move towards approving cashless technology. Recently, the Nevada Gaming Board approved cashless payment module. So I think we can see that as sort of trials of digital currencies satisfy regulators' concerns, we can see that sort of reform opening up in this area.
Yeah, I mean, so as you say, I mean, it is going to become more commonplace. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Particularly with, for example, state sanctions, central currencies, or currencies like the digital yuan. I mean, what do you see as the main pros and cons of the world moving more and more in that direction?
Yeah, sure. I mean, sort of like overall, I think that the digital currency, like we said, really facilitates sort of easier access to money, and so very much more sort of efficient payments and transactions, especially after the pandemic. It also helps the cashless aspects really help to sort of allay public concern regarding virus transmission through physical money exchanges. I think, like we said, also greater oversight of cash flows can definitely help businesses to understand better, and to be able to be more agile and to change operations or bring in different policies or strategies, because they've got better oversight sort of on transaction data. I think another really important aspect is that the digital currencies can provide a foundation and to really digitalize other aspects of the integrated resort experience. So it can really provide sort of like a foundation block to then introduce things like facial recognition technology for checking purposes, or for post departure payments. So I think we really see this as being a catalyst, the digital currency as a catalyst towards other developments in the business.
Yeah, I think it's a topic we're going to be talking a lot about over the next few years, Victoria. So look, it's great to talk to you. Thanks for joining us, and look forward to talking to you again in the future.
Thank you very much, Ben. Thank you.